Hi there and welcome to Wausau Woodworking. On today's show I'm going to be making a pedestal for a section of streetcar track I managed to pull out of Piedmont Avenue in Atlanta near 13th Street. Anyway, the finished project is going to look like this right here. And it may be hard to see, but down here on the front, etched in with the laser is the words Atlanta Streetcar, Piedmont at 13th Street. And a little picture that's been burned in there as well. So years ago I got this on a construction project. It had been left behind from many years ago. I'm not sure of the age. I want to say it's early 1900s, and the section got cut out and I brought it home and cleaned it up, and then I decided to finally make a pedestal out of mahogany so that I could take it to work and display it there. So that's what I intend to do, and the project turned out pretty good. So anyway, this is a little bit of a longer video, so I hope you enjoy watching it and seeing how I put it all together. So the first thing I need to do is run some of the mahogany plywood that I had that was some scraps through the table saw in about 3-inch wide strips. And you notice a couple of these are a little shorter than others. That will come into play later on. And once I get that all done, I'll put that to the side. And taking one piece of solid mahogany that will go on the top, that'll allow me to make a nice ogee around the edge. Okay, so one of the issues I have with this board is, as you can hear it, it is not flat. And you know, one of the things that I can do is I can actually do it on the joiner, but the joiner doesn't work when it's over 6 inches wide. And I'm going to try a technique that I saw somewhere else, where you take the board and you support it in all 4 corners and hold it secure and run it through the planer to get a nice flat edge, then flip it and run it back to the planer, and it should come out perfectly flat. Now, like I said, this could be done on the joiner, but I think it would be neat because when you're putting it on the joiner, you're pushing and it tends to warp it. I'm going to put a screw over here in the corner to support it, and then I will actually secure this probably with the screw from the bottom to hold it in place while I run it through the planer. So we'll see how that works. So I used a piece of plywood, and that'll be the base that goes through the planer. Keeps everything nice and flat. And now it's just a matter of supporting it. As you can see, I'm taking some screws that are not very long and putting it into the wood. The last thing I want is for the planer knives to actually hit the screws. So that's not going to happen. Then I'm going around and taking a shim and wedging it in there to support it, and I'll secure that with a few more screws. So you can see the gap in the wood is being supported by this. Now it's ready to go through the planer. So someone's going to point out that the base isn't as long as the wood that I'm planing, which just means I have to be careful when it's coming out to make sure everything stays level, and it works out. So I run it through the planer, and it's definitely gotten the corner that needed to. You can see the edge of it is somewhat tapered. So I'm going to take it off and now cut it up for use with the piece that I need. Now I'm taking that piece after it's been taken off the jig and running it back through to get the other side parallel to the first so that it's nice and flat. So now I'm taking the strips of plywood, I'm starting to cut the 45s on it. One thing that you'll notice is I haven't slid the miter jig fence over, and I'm about to cut into it. I cut into it a little bit here, but I don't notice it, but then I decided let's just push it all the way through, and boom, little aluminum shavings are everywhere. As you'll see when I'm doing this, I run it almost all the way through, about 95% of the way through, pull it back, and then break it off because I'm not using a zero clearance insert, and I don't want the piece to get caught in there and get thrown out and hit me or get tossed around the shop. It's just safer to do it that way. And I continue on to the third piece doing the same thing. There it is, 90% through, pull back, break it off, and put it through, trim the rest of it. So here I'm cutting the sides, and I've already done a 45, but I'm going to do it again. I'm getting it right where I need it to, and I'm going to slide that through. Once I get this piece cut, I will then take this other piece that I have there and line it up exactly with it, because it's hard to get a stop to work with that 45-degree cut, and I'll cut all the way through so that now both of them are exactly the same, and then I can start putting things together. Well, you can see that I used the wrong board, so this one was too short. I should use these for the sides, so now I have to recut another piece like this and then recut it. So that means I gotta take the saw, put the blade back, and then put it back together. So anyway, just a setback. I should have been paying better attention to it. I finished cutting, and as you can see, everything fits together very nicely. So I'm now going to glue it all together. So using the outfeed table as a nice workbench, which I do a lot, I'm now going to put glue on all the surfaces and spread it around with my finger and make sure that everything's covered very well. Then I'm going to put it together and then start putting tape on the corners to hold it in position, because I've not done anything here to where mechanically it's forced to meet at the point, so I'm just using the tape to hold it, and that works really well for me. I do this all the time. And once this is done, I'm going to then get the straps and put it all together so they can dry. To ensure that everything's flat, I use a hammer to tap on it, put some wooden blocks on the edge, and then tighten the clamp down. So I have enough clearance to be able to take this and put it on the CNC machine, which is good because I should have done this when the stock was all flat before I glued it together. So I'll start it up. This burns the label saying the intersection is from the Atlanta Streetcar, and here's a little higher view. As you can see, it's burning in, and this takes a while, so I've cut this short. So I have the piece, and it's all been laser burned, and it looks pretty good. I did have an issue on the back, and I had to take some veneer and put on. Luckily it's on the back, but so now it's time to put this onto the board. Now before I put the veneer on, which is a little thick, there was enough overlap, but now it's extremely close. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put this on, and without too much extra glue, because I don't really want it to come out. If I've been doing this differently, I probably would have made it overlap, but that's how that goes sometimes. And I'm pushing everything back towards the center when I do this, in hopes that the majority of the squeeze out will be on the inside, not on the outside. I really need to let this get tacky for a bit before I try to squeeze it down. So right now it's all in a good spot. Okay, I'm back. So now it's time to make the base molding. So I'm taking some scraps of mahogany. I don't have many, so I have to be careful with this. I'm going to run them through the table saw, trying to keep my fingers away from the blade. I'll use a alternate push stick, and once this is done, I will do this with the other pieces, clean them up, and take them over to the router table, where I will start to shape them up to look nice. So I take those strips over to the router table, and from this view from up overhead, you can see me putting it through, and in a couple quick passes I managed to take it to the shape that I need. These OG bits are great for making small moldings, and I definitely would recommend them. Now we're going to take the clamps off. And there we go. I just got to smooth this up, which I'll do with a router trim bit. Cut this on the table saw on each side and trim it up on the back, and then I'll be ready to take this molding and basically cut another piece just like that into the top here. Well, this is definitely not one of those times that you want to mess up, so you take your time and get as close as you can, and start, adjust, and then push it right on through. And of course then flip it around and do the same thing on the other side. And because you're using plywood, you can't afford to make a mess up because you can't sand it out. And one more last push and we're through with that. Okay, I've got everything cut I may have to trim the last one, but for right now I'm going to just put a little bit of glue down. There we go. That is now complete. So you can see right here I've managed to put on one coat so far of shellac, and now I'm putting on Minwax fast drying polyurethane gloss, and I really need to do about 4 coats of that total before I'm finished with this. So you'll notice it's also raised up so that way the spray will get to all the edges, and I make sure I get a good even coat before I bring it in and let it dry overnight. So it's been 3 or 4 days and it's the coat is very, very dry, so I will put another coat on and see what happens after that coat. So using the drill press, I first started with an 1/8 inch bit and then came back and used a 13/64 inch bit, which allows me to tap it with a 1/4-20 tap and go through a couple of these taps to really get bottom it out really good in there. And then I'll take some bolts and put them in as studs that I'll be able to use to fasten it down. So the studs have been put in, and I put these fender washers that are made of rubber in. It'll soften it as it goes down to the wood. And so now I'm ready to drill the holes in the plaque itself, or the wood base, so that this can be put in. So hopefully those measurements work out, and I slide it on. It's tight, but it works, so that worked out well. And then I flip it over, put on some washers and some thumb nuts, and it is all finished. And the last things I do is I put these little pieces on the corners so that it doesn't scratch anything on the desk, and then that basically completes it. So I hope you enjoyed watching this episode. I really enjoyed making this. This piece of streetcar track has been sitting in my shop for a long time and finally needed to be moved out, so I'm glad I made it and putting it on a display for all to see. So anyway, if you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe today, hit the little bell next to it to be notified every couple of weeks when I put out a new video, and I hope to see you next time on Wausau Woodworking. Thanks for watching.